Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on VoiceAmericaMedia.com. This is the program that shows you how to turn your problems into solutions and your obstacles into opportunities and make your dreams come true. We're in our 24th year on Voice America Media. I'm very proud of that. I've been on many different networks, all different kinds, broadcast, internet, podcast, and I've stayed with this one along with others for all these years, and it's a really wonderful network. Today, we're talking about something we can always use, and that is stress reduction techniques. How do we find calm and connection when there's chaos? How do we identify distractions and those hidden stressors in our life? How do we reframe the concept of success and so that we can better develop self-awareness and have less stress even when we are successful? And so, what are some things that we can do to just balance our wellness and navigate healthcare extremes? And today we have an expert. Her name is Jennifer Wren Tolo. She's also known as the Resiliency Coach. She's a former critical care nurse, an award-winning health and wellness educator, a renowned speaker, and a transformational life coach who empowers women and young adults to take back their happiness and their health. After experiencing life-threatening illnesses with two of her four sons, she developed her signature method called the ABCs of Stress Management to help clients reconnect with their voice and the wisdom of their soul to leave survival mode behind and reclaim power over their lives. She presents a marriage of personal experiences with professional knowledge and integrates this with reality-based strategies to help you find your calm within you to weather the inevitable storms of life. She is a best-selling author. She's an adjunct professor of Endicott College of Nursing. She hosts the Simple Awakenings podcast and was an executive contributor to Brain Z magazine. She's been featured on Fox and ABC News. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about stress. There's a lot of it right now. There's a lot of stress in our environment. There's a lot of stress in our world, just everywhere. And one of the things we can do to help our health is reduce our stress.
Mm-hmm.
But my question to you, Jen, is how can people be aware of their stress? And the reason I'm asking that is that sometimes we're just in that mode so often and so regularly, we don't even know we're stressed anymore.
Right. It's
So
normalized.
talk
Stress
to
has
us
become
about
normalized. Yes.
exactly. Talk to us
Yes.
about that.
Well, I think that many of us are operating in survival mode and we don't even realize it because we're so used to being in this mode. We don't know any different. This is what's familiar. And I know for me, when you start realizing or recognizing that you're having trouble relaxing, that even when you have time to relax, you can't shut your mind off or you can't relax your body, when you're having trouble sleeping, when you're having trouble digesting your food or having stomach
Mm,
issues, when you're having
mm,
trouble concentrating, right? Many of us kind of have to go over the same thing more than once, or we're told something and then we forget. So these are all subtle signs that we are operating in survival mode. Because
mm,
in order for us to digest our food, in order for us to sleep, we have to be able to relax. Um, and I know this was me. I was in survival mode for a long time. And sometimes when we operate in survival mode because of an emergency or because of something that is requiring our time and attention and the urgency, we don't know how to shift gears back to um, relaxation. We don't know how to recognize when there isn't actually urgency. Right. So when you
mhm.
find that everything's an emergency or everything needs to get done right now, or you have this fear of missing out on something, all of these things can create stress in our lives. And
Jen,
so,
what are some things we can do? What are some practical strategies? And let's take each one of those. Let's take trouble sleeping. Let's take trouble digesting food. Let's take forgetting things, having so many things in your mind that we
Yeah.
forget. What are some strategies?
Well, before you go into the strategies, Patricia, I think it's important to understand first, like this is the first part of my ABCs, is the awareness piece. You have to be aware of it. So
Yeah,
again, when I use the word stress and with my target audience, which is, women that are overloaded, that are so busy, they're so busy that they don't really have time to take care of themselves. When self-care is becoming something where you're checking boxes like, oh, showered today, exercised today, did my meditation today, but you're not really getting the benefits of it because it becomes another to do on your list. These are the things that people aren't even aware of. And so before you can even get into the strategies, because they're not separate, the strategies cover all of it, right? And so relaxation strategies, the number one tool that you have is your breathing. But again, if you're not even aware of the fact that it's stress that's impacting your sleep,
yeah.
that it's stress that's impacting your digestion, then the strategies don't mean anything, right? Because you don't recognize
Mhm.
so many of the women that I work with, strong, independent, high achieving women, are in that survival mode. But if you ask them if they're stressed, they'll say, I'm not stressed. Because what we think of as stress is something like financial, like changes, something changes to our life, financial
Right.
changes, a loss of a loved one, something like that, loss of a job, right? An illness, like my husband just had surgery. So he's under stress, and there's stress in our lives because he had major surgery, right? So those are the obvious stressors. But there are hidden stressors
Yeah,
that are these subtle things that we don't even realize impact, which is what causes us to be on all the time and not be able to turn off, right? Or relax. So the
yeah.
strategies for tuning into that is, if you have a moment to just stop and pause and get still for a second, can you take some deep breaths? Or do you start getting distracted because you start getting dizzy? And then all of a sudden you get distracted from
Mhm.
being still. Is that something that is impacting your ability to relax? Is it your mind that's telling you, your ego
Mhm.
mind that's telling you, you're not safe right now? Being still isn't safe because you have these thoughts that either you're missing something, you're forgetting something, that you're going to be perceived as lazy
Mhm.
or incapable,
Mhm.
right? Like, so this is the strategies to first start, is really starting to look at, what are you able to get still? Are you able to be present in the here and now? Can you
Yeah.
take some
Yes.
deep breaths and calm your nervous system? Or is your mind and the urgency to do something else, or the future focused mindset, the outcome focused mindset, stopping you from being able to do that?
Yeah. So, as you said, the breath is a really important one because that kind of helps you to pause, right? It helps your whole
Absolutely.
physiological system.
Yeah, it takes 2 minutes of deep breathing to reset your relaxation response. But you have to be able to take the deep breaths. So again, there's power in that pause where you stop and you take some deep breaths, recognizing that you're dysregulated. How many of your listeners even notice that they're dysregulated?
Mm, mm,
So the
yeah.
awareness piece is, I'm dysregulated right now. I can feel like my shoulders, I'm wearing my shoulders as earrings. I can feel tension in my stomach. I feel tension in my shoulders. I am I am getting myself worked up, and I'm finding myself worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet, right? Or
Yeah.
I'm finding myself fixating on something that happened, yesterday or the day before, that I can't seem to get out of my mind, right? If that's
Jenny,
the awareness piece. Sorry?
right. Now, you mentioned breathing. Is there
Yeah.
another technique, particularly for those people that ruminate? And I understand that one, where you go
Hmm.
back, you do postmortems, I shoulda, woulda, coulda, or you're
Hmm.
worried about something, and that's a shoulda, woulda, coulda. Is it going to be okay, even though it
Right.
hasn't happened yet? So, beside the breathing, what else can you do to stop the rumination in the brain?
Well, there are a lot of different techniques for that, but sometimes it requires a sort of a distraction. So there are a couple of different tools that you can use. There is a breathing, somatic breathing, where you can, it's called belly breathing, but you put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And that kind of anchors you to your body in the present moment. And you can take deep breaths and focus on the rise and fall of your hands.
Mm,
So again, it
mm,
gives you something to focus on other than those ruminating thoughts. That's one technique. Another technique is art, or I like to use this with my students. I just used it with some elderly adults that I work with, where you take a deep breath and you exhale and draw a line on the paper while you exhale. And then you inhale and
mm.
pick your pen up. And then you exhale and you draw a line again. It's bringing your attention from your thoughts to a task that you're doing in the present moment.
Very
There
interesting.
is,
So it's
what's
getting your
that?
motor control. It's getting everything. It's not just your
It's
brain.
connect.
It can
It's
with the
connecting your
physical.
mind and your body, and interrupting that feedback loop of thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. Another really great technique is when you're finding yourself in that overwhelm or in that ruminating thought, get outside. Nature is one of the most regulating things. If you can step outside, one of my favorite things to do that I tell my husband, I tell my clients to do, is to step outside, turn your face up to the sun, and take a couple of deep breaths. Again, you're
Mm,
noticing and notice the sensation. So it's bringing in kind of the physical sensation of the sun on your face, bringing in the air, noticing the sounds, and taking some deep breaths. And then another technique, which is called a grounding sensory technique that a lot of people use for anxiety in particular, those ruminating thoughts. It's called the 5 4 3 2 1 technique, which is, what are 5 things that I see? What are 4 things that I can smell? What
mm.
are 3 things? Yes. And it again, it brings in the sensory. Because what happens when we're having these ruminating thoughts, when we attach to a thought, we are we are giving attention to things and kind of giving these thoughts a nice cozy home to hang out in our mind. And so by interrupting that, and we're also focusing on the future. We're focusing on the what ifs, the things that haven't happened, or we're focusing on
Yeah.
things that happened in the past
Right.
that we're worried about happening again.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
we do that, we're giving our power away and we're giving
Right.
our presence away.
Right.
So
And
yeah,
so
go ahead.
what you're saying is that it's very important you by doing these sensory exercises or the brain and the body combined, you're staying in the present moment. You can't
Absolutely.
leave where you are, and that's going to make a big difference. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more to Jennifer. Um, Jen, do I say Jen or Jennifer?
Whatever you want to call me, I answer to it all.
So, Jen Tolo, we're going to talk more. We're going to talk more about finding that calm and connection, using some of these techniques to find that calm and connection amidst life's chaos. All right, you're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on voiceamerica.com, America's Voice. And the website is jenwrentolo.com.
No,
Go ahead,
Jennifer
Jennifer.
Wren Tolo is the website. Instagram is Jen Wren Tolo.
Okay. Jennifer Wren, WRENTOLO.com. All right. You can
Yes.
get all your information there. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone, and we are back. We are back with Jennifer Wren Tolo, who is also known as the Resiliency Coach. And she has her signature method of the ABCs of stress management, and that's what we're talking about. Jen is a former critical care nurse, award winning health and wellness educator, a renowned speaker, and a transformational life coach. And she helps women and young adults take back their happiness and their health. So, welcome back, Jennifer. I want to talk about maintaining that calm and connection when there's chaos.
Hmm.
When you're just going through something and you feel like the walls are closing in and it's hard to grab things to do and think rationally. What are your suggestions?
Well, I mean, I first would love to just share that I've been there. I mean, I had as a critical care nurse, I had to maintain calm in life's chaos. But then, as a mother of four boys, two of which had massive life threatening illnesses, I
Mm,
had to learn how to maintain calm in the chaos because when I'm calm, I can create an environment of calm. And when I'm calm, I can make the best, most soul aligned decisions.
right,
And when you're not calm, that's when you are
right.
reacting and you are sometimes feeding stress, not realizing it. So that's why maintaining calm in life's chaos is really important. And one of the biggest things, um, and I know it's a buzzword, but being mindful and being mindful, meaning being in the present moment, which we touched on before. But being present is really important because it grounds our energy. It helps us kind of understand, get calm first, to be able to access our rational thought, to be able to understand what can I control in this moment?
Mm,
What do I have
mhm,
control over? Because many
right.
times we are trying to control things that are not within our control. The only thing we have control over is ourself, our actions, our reactions, and our choices in the present moment. We can't control the past. We can't control the future or outcomes, but we can influence the future through our choices in the right here and right now.
Mm, yeah,
So the only way to make positive, healthy, soul aligned, empowered choices is to be calm because we can't access our rational thoughts, our
yeah,
frontal lobe,
yeah.
when we are triggered and in that fight or flight.
Right. And the breathing helps with that because it's
Absolutely.
part of our whole autonomic system. So that helps. Even if our mind is going, the breathing will help us to calm
Yeah,
down.
yeah, and just the pausing, giving yourself a moment to just pause before you react or respond. I'll give you an example. My son, one of my sons, he's 20. He was home on from college, and out of the blue, he had a seizure. It's never happened before.
Mm, mm,
And I now granted, I do have a medical background, so I it's easier for me to be calm than somebody who doesn't. But I was able to, look at the situation and kind of go, "Oh my gosh, he's having a seizure," right?
mm,
And then I was able to make sure that he was safe. And by me being calm, my other kids that were with me were able to be calm. And
mhm,
I was able to, after pausing for a second, because my initial reaction is, what the heck is going on? Why is this happening? So chaos. So by taking some deep breaths, I was able to go, okay, what do I need to do right now? All right, call 911. Let's get an ambulance here. And then I had all these other things. Okay, one of my kids, like I was delegating, right? You do this, you do this. And then I was able to be present with my son because that's what he needed of me from me. And so life is chaotic.
yeah. I think there's a freeze here. All right, everyone. Have a little technical issue here. We're going to go to a quick break and we'll come right back with Jen Tolo with her terrific comments and her terrific techniques on stress management and how we can find calm and connection amidst life's chaos. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. We're back. We got Jen back. We had a little bit of a technical glitch, but we're back. And perfect question for this, Jen, is tell us more about finding that common connection when there's chaos or when there's disruption.
Yeah. Well, when you can find that calm and when you can regulate your nervous system and just take that pause, because that pause is going to help you connect to, okay, what's going on? Is there danger? Is there an emergency? Or is there, what is it that I need right now in this moment? And when you are able to take that pause, you can then respond versus react to whatever's happening. And
Mhm.
by doing that, you can actually access your higher brain functions, which is your prefrontal cortex, your decision making part of your brain. And when we are in that fight or flight, when we are in pulled into the chaos, we get reactive, and we're reacting from an emotional place versus from a rational, logical place.
Mhm.
So by learning to be calm in the chaos, it starts with number one, awareness that you're not calm, right? And then B would be the breathing and the balancing your nervous system with your breath. And then the C of my ABCs is to connect with what is happening in the moment. What are my choices in the moment? And what do I need to do for my greatest good in this moment?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, Jen. One of the things that's helped me, because I've certainly been through this more than often, is what's been helping me lately is the self-talk where I will say to myself, I know this is really bothering you. I mean, it's like I have another voice that comes in and
Mm-hmm.
says, I know you're really upset about this, but you know what? You can handle this. I mean, it's
Right.
like this other voice comes in to give this person who's very upset some perspective.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things to do is, again, put one hand on my heart and give myself a moment to acknowledge this is really hard right now. I'm having a really hard time right now. And just give yourself a little compassion and
Yeah.
then say, like you said, like, this is hard right now, but I am resilient and I am strong and I am going to get through this. Because what happens is that safety and security gets threatened in moments of chaos where we think, like, I'm not well, things aren't going, this is some of the hidden stressors, things aren't going the way you planned, right? And we feel a little loss of control. And that loss of control can pull us into chaos. So, resiliency is about being able to handle uncertainty, being able to
Mhm.
recover when things don't go according to plan, when you get knocked down, when you have those moments that are really hard. Resiliency is knowing this is hard, but I can handle hard things. I have handled hard things, right?
Yeah. I think that's so true. And I think, part of what you write about, you have P's, your P's of resilience and transformation. You have three. I developed five decades ago. And so interesting. Yours are presence, perspective, and purpose, which certainly helps you with resilience.
Yes.
Mine are purpose, planning, persistence, patience, which is a hard one, and planning and prayer. So it's those are the ones that I have, and I really want to talk to you about your three because I think that really ties into resilience, presence, perspective, and purpose.
Yes. Well, again, I mentioned this already, but it's really important to be in the present moment because when you are present, that is where you have the greatest amount of control. And that is where you have choices that can impact outcomes, right? I saw a wonderful equation that one of my son's coaches put up on the board, and it said E, event, plus R, your response, equals O, outcome. The only thing you have control over is the R, your response. And so you need to be present in order to have, to impact your response, right? To respond versus react. And then
Mm,
perspective is many times we see something as a threat and it's not really a threat, right? We see
mm,
something as being a danger or being overwhelming or being, that's going to, so stress is all about perception. So what you might perceive to be a stressor, and what I might perceive to be a stressor are different, right? And the thing about mindfulness, the thing about
mhm,
meditation, the thing about a lot of complementary and alternative modalities is it works on changing that psychoneural humoral connection, which is the connection between your mind and the power of your mind to impact your neurotransmitters, the chemical response in your body.
mhm,
So perception
mhm.
or perspective can absolutely, if you learn to change that, you can change the way your body reacts to a stressor,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
it's all
yes,
about
I've
that.
seen that. I've
Yes.
seen that. What do you think too about owning your feelings? So, for example, maybe you feel down or despondent, or you're angry, or you're frustrated. And instead of like, I shouldn't feel this way, saying, you
Mm,
know what? Yeah, anybody would be frustrated by this. Or anyone,
absolutely.
someone, being able to acknowledge it and and say it's okay
Yeah.
rather than, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way.
As soon as you put a label and a judgment onto a feeling, you are making that feeling good or bad, which is going to decide that's perception, right? Or your perspective. Is this a good feeling or a bad feeling? Why am I having this feeling? And when you judge that feeling, you can actually create more of a stress spiral because why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way. Instead of, to
Right.
your point, acknowledging the feeling. So I like to say, notice the feeling, acknowledge that you are feeling this way, but don't give it a nice cozy home to hang out in your head and to ruminate. Notice the feeling, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, but then allow yourself to move through that feeling through
Mhm.
mindfulness techniques, breathing techniques, shifting your perspective, and talking to yourself, the self-talk, all the tools we've already talked about. But I think the key is
Yeah.
don't judge the feeling. And the emotional intelligence is really important. Put a label to that feeling, right? But here's another really big distinction. Don't use the words, I am sad, I am overwhelmed. I am stressed, because then you're taking that feeling on as being who you are. Instead, I
Mm,
feel this.
yeah,
I
very
am
good point.
experiencing this, right? Because
Yeah.
then you can control that.
Yeah, I also, you said something there about words. I think we don't realize the power of the words. I have
Oh,
someone close to me that will drop something on the floor and say, "You idiot." And I hear
oh
this
yeah.
often. What a jerk. And
Mm.
I will say to them, I don't say that. And they're so frustrated that they did it. And it's very common. They don't even realize that that language takes effect.
Oh, so many people I talk to, if people could listen to the words that they say to themselves, they would never speak that way to somebody else. So I had a woman that I played tennis with, and she would just, "You're such an idiot," those kinds of words. And I finally
Yes.
turned to
Yeah.
her. She wasn't even aware of it. She was not even aware that she spoke to herself that way. And I turned to her and I said, "Hey, be nice to my partner." And she went, "Huh?" And I said, "Be
Mm,
nice." I said, "We all make mistakes. They happen. Don't judge yourself so harshly." But I
yeah.
also think to myself, who's talking to you like that? Who spoke to you like that?
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Who put those words into your, but
Yeah.
you're right. Words
Yeah.
are so powerful. I have a tool that I've given to, I've done this a lot with kids, but I've given this tool to a lot of my clients too, just to again bring the awareness to those thoughts. If you have a jar, you have two jars, you can make them pretty jars, you can make them vases, whatever you want to do. But you have a jar for heavy negative thoughts and you have a jar for lighter positive thoughts. And every time you have a negative thought or you say something bad about yourself, you put a rock in that jar, because words are can be heavy and they can weigh you down. But when you're able to, what I like to say, flip the script or turn that into a positive word, then you can put a feather or something light, like a one of those little pom pom balls, whatever you can get your hands on. But like put that into the jar, and it just gives you a visualization. Do I have more stones or do I have more feathers? What's weighing me down? Right? Because lighter words, positive words will lift you up and give you wings. But
Yeah.
the stones can weigh you down and you're not even aware of it. So this is just to bring that awareness to that self talk.
Also, Jen, address how sometimes we'll react to something that's very little in terms of what was actually said, but it's a trigger for what happened
Yes,
to us 10 years ago. So you
absolutely.
look at me in a certain way or say something, or you have a situation where someone says something that you don't like, but they've said 20 things before that and now it builds up. So talk about how to handle that, the triggers.
Well, for again, awareness, you have to be aware of the triggers and you have to recognize that the triggers are your triggers.
Right.
So, I
Right.
mean, you see that happening in the world right now where people are very
Yeah.
triggered and
Yeah.
wanting to
Yeah.
micromanage everybody else
Yeah.
to not get triggered. But that's giving your power away to other people. That's letting people have power over you based on what they say and do. But
Yeah.
you need to hold on to your power by recognizing, okay, these are my triggers. Why are they my triggers? Like I love
Yeah. And I
that
want to
exercise
go
of
ahead.
asking yourself, why? Why is this a trigger?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is this, right? What can I
Yeah.
control?
Interesting. And I want to get your opinion here. So I had a situation with someone in my close circle who makes these snarky comments, and you ignore them. I'm ignoring them, but it was like it was in a string, and after a few months, it was just the wrong time, and I kind of jumped, which I usually don't do. And the person looked at me and said, "Gee, what did I say?" Right? I explained it. I explained exactly how I felt and it didn't land. And you know what I got at the very end? What I got? "I'm so sorry that you're so sensitive."
Mm,
And when I heard that, I said, okay, so from now on, there's going to be more snarky comments. I need to prepare. So when I'm in that presence, to argue or to share my feeling about why it isn't going to work because they don't get it anyway. So the
Right.
best thing to do in this situation is you either ignore it or you just smile or you change the subject or you say, gee, I haven't thought about that. Because it's just not going to work to keep sharing that gut feeling because they
Mhm.
don't get it. They don't see it as something that they've done. Their intent doesn't mean anything to them. And the impact on me doesn't mean anything to them. It's all
Mhm.
about it's the other person. And that was a
Well,
lesson I had to learn.
yeah, well, yes, but I would
Go
also
ahead.
say, do you know what their intention was? Like, so one of the biggest hidden stressors that I find is our expectations of how we should be reacting or how we should behave, but also our expectations on how other people should behave. And then our assumptions that we understand people's intentions, or our assumptions that people know what we're thinking, people know how to behave. Like, we make these assumptions and these expectations, but again, the only thing we can control is ourselves.
Right,
So that's where, if somebody's making snarky comments, we get to decide, are we going to get let those snarky comments land and bother us, or are we going to recognize that they're just snarky comments and they don't necessarily have to mean anything, right? They can be annoying and they can be, but we decide if we're going to let those snarky comments impact us.
right,
Again, I love to say to people, you have to decide what's yours and what's not
right,
yours.
right.
So
And
your reaction is yours.
that's right. But for
The
some
comments are not yours.
That's right. But for some people, when you explain the impact on you, they get it and it doesn't happen again. With some people, it's just always going to happen. And that's where then you make that decision. Am I going to react or am I just going to let this go? Because
Right.
it's just their comment.
It's just their comment. And sometimes that's just people, again, there's a lack of awareness. And I
Exactly.
could I could try to
Exactly.
make somebody aware of how their words are impacting me. But again, the impact of their words on me, that's mine.
Right.
Their words are theirs.
Exactly.
But I can't assume or expect that this person's going to change their behavior because I
Exactly.
don't appreciate it. I get to
I
choose,
agree.
do I want to be around that person or not? If this person
Exactly.
is going to, and I've had that where I've had to take a step back from people because I find myself triggered, right? And then I have to recognize, well, and I got to do my own internal work by saying, why is this person triggering me so much? Why is this person,
Exactly.
why am I letting this person affect me so much?
Exactly.
That's my internal work. I can't
Right.
change
And then
anybody else.
Right. And then you decide how you're going to respond when that comes up again, because now you get it. At least that's
Right.
how I've done it. And
Yes,
that's helped
but
me.
yes, but if you expect that by telling somebody how their words make you feel or their actions make you feel, if the expectation is I'm going to tell them and they're going to change their behavior,
That won't work.
no, because that's yours, right? Then
That's right.
you're right. So
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah,
And my decision was when I get those kinds of comments, they're not aware, and I'm not sure they can be aware. And so I get that.
right.
So
And it
now
doesn't make them
I
a
let it
bad
go.
person, right? It
Exactly.
doesn't make them a bad person. It,
Exactly.
yeah, it's just a different level of awareness. Exactly.
Yeah, it really is about the awareness. Closing thoughts. Jen, what would you like to leave our listeners with? We've got a few minutes. I'd like to hear what are things that are really good takeaways for our listeners from today? I know breathing is one of them.
Yes. Well, just that you have the power inside of you to have the life that you want to lead. And so just tune into, where are those moments? What are those situations where you're giving your power away? And how
Yeah,
can you start to reclaim that power?
yeah,
Right. And you do that through that self awareness piece. I like to say radical self awareness, knowing who you are and what you need, but also knowing who you're not and understanding what those triggers are, understanding those areas that are vulnerable for you and owning them instead of projecting them onto other people. That is how
Yeah,
you hold on to your power and really make the most thoughtful, impactful decisions that are in your best interest, right? And that can ripple
yeah,
out to the world.
absolutely. How can people find you and talk about maybe workshops or coaching that you
Yeah,
do?
sure. People can find me at, you had mentioned my website, Jennifer Wren, Wren, Tolo.com, or on Instagram at Jen Wren Tolo. Um, and I have a couple things going on. I'm about to launch my free webinar, which is called Permission to Pause. And it is all about everything we've talked about today, but a little free workshop about just how giving people the tools to understand the power of the pause and why it's so important to pause before we react and get spun up. And I go through my signature ABCs with that. So that's a free webinar that I do monthly. And then I also have a wonderful community that I'm building called the Soulful Superwomen Tribe. And it's a monthly membership
Mm,
where people can come on, and I do an intuitive reading every month. I give people a guided meditation every month. They get a guided question for or a question for reflection every month. And then we have an open house question and answer session where people can come on and we talk about that question and sort of how it impacts people's lives. It's a beautiful community where we're really just trying to support each other, because I think more and more women, we need to support each other more.
and if people are interested in that, can they contact you?
They can contact me. They can also go onto my website. All of that is on my website and on the links in my
Particularly
bio.
if they're interested in one of your groups.
Yes, yeah, I have coaching programs, but I have a Reclaim Your Power coaching program. I have a Permission to Pause 3-day boot camp, which is an immersive boot camp. And then my Permission to Pause free webinar. I've got a couple books online. There's a lot of different ways that I can support you and on the different levels of
Wonderful.
wherever you are.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the program, really, and for inspiring us and helping us really to find common chaos in our lives. And as you said, the key, your ABCs again, the awareness, the breathing, and the third one was
Connection. So it's awareness,
connection.
balance with breathing, and connection and choices.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much, Jen. And you have a
Thank you.
podcast too.
Yes. The Simple Awakening podcast. Yes, it's on anywhere you get your podcasts.
Wonderful. Thank
Yes.
you. Stay on the line
Thank
for a
you.
minute. It was a pleasure to work with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. I brought the chaos, but we managed it, didn't we? Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
You're welcome. All right, stay on the line for a minute. All right, folks, that wraps up this edition of the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show. To find me, Patricia at patriciaraskin.com, and I would love to send you a copy of my monthly newsletter, which has all these wonderful guests like Jennifer. Also, if you would like to create your own podcast, I have interviewed over 6,000 people in my decades of doing this work, and I'd love to help you put it together, particularly sending out that positive message that so many of you have. Remember, stay healthy, stay happy, get the support you need, and know you can make your dreams come true. Until next time, I'm Patricia Raskin. Bye for now.